Hey guys, it's Kevin from Mix Coach. Time for another episode of the Mix Coach Minute. A few days ago, Stone Walters, I called him I called him Stone Phillips the other day because that's a reporter here. But anyway, Stone Walters, we did a series of kind of back and forth conversations where Stone was asking me questions about Mix Coach Minute type of things, and they were popular, and you guys seemed to like them. So we decided, and Stone and I like to talk about this kind of stuff. So I decided to get Stone to talk to me a little bit more. So, but last week or a few days ago, Stone and I talked about anchor points, about the kick, and I told him that. Usually, if you were to solo the kick or the drums, you would find that they were about -10. Mainly the kick, wasn't it, Stone? The
Yeah,
kick
that's
was
right.
-10. Well, Stone, in his usual fashion, went above and beyond and did some more research. So I was going to ask Stone in this episode of the Mix Coach Minute what he found as far as other anchor points, as he's calling them. So, Stone, why don't you just take it away and tell us what you found out about the anchor points, and if the kick at -10 was true, and then some of the research that you found.
Cool. Well, Kevin, what was interesting is that as I kind of looked through a lot of different sessions with stems in them, I noticed that that kick level tends to be pretty consistent, irrespective of genre of music. So oftentimes, if the kick is soloed, it will register around -10 to -8, or anything with a 2 to 4 dB window.
Now, what are you checking
Um,
these? What are you checking this with, Stone? Do you have?
Well, I'm checking this with pre-mixed stems. So, for example, there's a website called Shaking Through, and what these guys do is every month they record a band in one day, and they mix the song in one day, and then they make available for free the raw files and the stem sessions, as well as the finished and mastered mixes for anyone to download and either to come up with your own mixes or to analyze for whatever reason.
Wow.
So there's a couple of really cool songs, and what's really great is the style of music is very diverse. So I've picked a couple of those songs that I kind of use all the time to kind of go and analyze and try and figure out what's going on from a mixing perspective.
Hmm.
And when you solo out when you solo the raw session file, so for example the raw kick, it's coming in at around -18, which is the right point in a gain staging wise. And then when you start to mix it and add all the elements together, it's coming in at around -10 or so. But what was really interesting as an extension of that was when you take the drum stems together. For example, I have one of their tracks by a guy called Stephen Clark, and I have the figures here for how everything measured out in terms of ballpark. The drums were actually coming in, the drum stems, so kick, snares, toms, everything was coming in at around -22 RMS for the entire song. So that means once everything was mixed, that was the level the drums are at. If you put the fader at the stem at 0, the bass was coming in at around -18. Sorry, -19. So therefore, you can see that the bass was a little bit louder in that track. It was actually a soul track, so it was more bass driven and more bass led. So there's a 4 dB differential in that. What I thought was interesting though was that his vocal for the song was coming in at around -23 RMS. So the bass was actually louder
Hmm.
than the vocal was. But what was really cool, as I kind of studied that out and then looked through other stem sessions, I came up with some ballpark figures that if you're mixing, you can kind of say this is kind of like where the stems should be coming in. So the drums should come in around here. So if this is useful to anyone, if you're mixing vocals, most of the vocals tend to come in at around -20 to -18 RMS as a ballpark figure. Drums tend to come in between -22 to -19 RMS, and bass tends to come in around -22 to -18 RMS. And what's interesting, like I said, irrespective of style, those are the ballparkish figures. And the other thing that was interesting, if I can just add one more thing before I go back over to you in the studio, is there's this new way to measure sound. It's kind of like the K metering system. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if you've heard of the K metering,
Hmm.
K20, K14, and K12. But what the K metering system does is slightly different to a regular peak or RMS meter that most stores ship with, is it measures perceived volume and not actual volume. So something could be -18 in your door meter, but the K meter might say it's actually -10. Now, it's not an incorrect reading. It's just basically saying, based on psychoacoustic principles, this actually sounds louder than it's actually being registered with the peak or RMS meter. So along those lines, there's a new level of measurement that they use in broadcasting, called the LU, which stands for the loudness unit.
Okay.
And this is a way to measure the perceived dynamics of sound. So not the actual dynamics, but how people perceive it to be. And what I found with all these sessions that I've been going through is that with vocals, the perceived dynamics or the loudness unit or the dynamic range is usually between 2 to 10 dB, depending on which section of the song it's in, and what the style of music is. On average, it comes in at around around 4 or 5, but usually the whole spectrum is between 2 and 10. If it's, for example, I was analyzing a vocal from a well-known country artist, and there was a lot going on in the chorus in this particular arrangement. Mm-hmm. So the vocal was actually -2 dynamic range, just a 2 dB dynamic range. Sorry, 2, not -2.
Right.
Drums have a perceived dynamic range of between 2 to 4. In other words, once the drums come in, they don't, perception-wise, they don't change. They're just there.
Right.
And then finally, the bass usually has a perceived dynamic range of 2 to 6. So again, everything just, once it comes in, it just feels really solid, like it's actually there. Again, just to reiterate that this is the perceived dynamic range, not the actual dynamic range.
Okay.
For example, the difference between the peak of a snare drum and the RMS level of the snare drum might be 10 dB, but it's only perceived by the ear as being around 2 dB.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's wow. That's a lot of great information right there. Now, I guess we should say too that we're not really saying that you should learn to mix by meters only. You shouldn't say it's mixed if my drums are -10. You should definitely default to your ears. But I always advocate on Mix Coach Member that you should set up a template. You should have a template that you go to for different styles of music. Mm-hmm. And this is a great way of saying, does my template work? And does my template gain stages? Does my template gain stage the tracks the way they should be gain staged? In other words, all your submixes should be set at 0, and then if they are hitting the VU or the peak meter the way you're saying, then it's pretty much gain staged, right? You shouldn't go moving the auxiliary buses, but you should be changing this. That way, all of the everything is what you did in your article about gain staging, and was it Levels Demystified? Levels Demystified, I think that you did the gain staging, all the gain staging and how things should hit plugins.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. So we're not saying that you should set up your mix to where if the numbers are right, then it's a good mix. No, that's just a good place to start. Then you can let your ears take over and say, how does this, the perceived volume, and how does it make me feel when I listen to a mix? Because mixing is all about emotion to me.
Yeah.
A mix can either make you want to yawn, or it can make you want to move bob your head or dance or do something like that. So do all this stuff so that you're mixing. You can do all the math sort of things like this, so that when you get ready to mix for emotion, all the gain staging is taken care of. Would Absolutely. You agree? Would you agree
Absolutely.
with that? Okay.
And I think maybe added to that, a cool thing to do would be, once maybe you fish that you like, go back and actually look at what your levels were, because I think that's a great insight into what you are instinctively creating in terms of mix levels and gain staging.
Okay, I missed your. We had a bad connection just there for a second. So what did you just say? That whole thing you just said again?
Cool. Yeah, I would say maybe what you could do as well is once you've actually mixed something that you like and that you're proud of and you feel is a great sounding mix, to actually go back and analyze your own levels and see where things are coming out, because I think that will probably make more sense than trying to copy someone else's levels or
exactly.
or the whole thing.
Exactly. I would agree with that wholeheartedly, Stone. Man, that's some really great information. So use this stuff if you can. If you like this kind of information and you like guys like Stone, who really does his homework and is really active on the Mix Coach member forums, come check out MixCoachMember.com. I think you'll find that you will become a greater mixer a lot faster than trying to do it on your own. So anyway, I guess this concludes this episode of the Mixed Coach Minute. Stone, thank you for doing all that crazy investigation. And maybe I should start. Maybe I should call you Stone Phillips because you're an investigative reporter when it comes to mixing and gain staging. So anyway,
Thanks, Tim.
until tomorrow, see you guys later.